Kevin Smith rose to prominence by telling the story of two clerks dealing with an insane day at their New Jersey convenience store. Now he looks to introduce the next generation to a pair of courageous convenience clerks, but this time they're Canadian. Strap in as we look to tell you all about how Yoga Hosers is not that bad. Welcome one and all to It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A grades in B movies. Now, I have gone on a record multiple times saying I really enjoy the films of Kevin Smith. Not every critic, though, is on my side, but here to join me to defend one of Kevin Smith's films, making his return engagement, is Brendan Brizzy Sullivan. Briz, welcome back to the show. How you doing, man?
I'm sound as an Irish pound there, love. I'm doing absolutely freaking fantastic. Kevin Smith is by far one of my favorite human beings of all time. Just to give your listeners a little background, when I was battling cancer, Kevin Smith was the thing that I would watch repeatedly. I'm talking all his movies, all his stand-ups, his TV show, Comic Book Man. I was doing it all, and I actually got to meet him a couple of times, and he's just an awesome dude and just such an inspiration, of what a human being should be like.
You know, I never had the chance to actually personally meet Kevin Smith. Would love the chance to have that moment. But I love the fact that his art and his work was able to help you at a time that you needed it. Now, we're about to talk about one of his lowest critic score productions because we are talking about Yoga Hosers. So I'm going to ask you, aside from being a Kevin Smith fan, what is it about this film that prompted you to suggest it for this show?
Oh, because it is so random. It is so out of the box. So many famous people are in it. And it's just pure stupidity of what comes out of people when they're high. It's so freaking random. I mean, you even bring Nazis into this movie. So Canadian modern day Nazis.
I'll admit, when you mentioned Yoga Hosers, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, like good actors, whatnot. It's set in Canada, so as a Canadian, I'm going to relate to this. And then I watched it. And then I had to sit there and go, what the hell did I just watch? But believe me when I say there is actually a lot of good in this. But before we build it up, we have to tear it back down, work from the ground up here. So before we jump into this, it is time to take this, New Jersey filmmaker shot in California about a bunch of Canadians film and trailerize it.
In 1936, Reefer Madness tried to tell us not to smoke pot. Now, in 2016, one film will try to tell us not to write scripts while high. From the mind of Kevin Smith comes Yoga Hosers, a tale of two hard-rocking, job-slacking, constantly texting sophomores looking to go to a grade 12 party. Along the way, they'll battle the authoritarian anti-cell phone Nazis that teach at their school, horny Satanists who forgot that they're not in Jennifer's body, and a horde of miniature Nazi butt-raiding wiener babies intent on taking over the world from their secret lair underneath Winnipeg. I'm just high now from reading that sentence. Good thing pot's legal in Canada. And so is Yoga Hosers. Rated PG-13 for Pass the Grass.
That was excellent. That was excellent. I should have muted myself. I could not stop laughing. I'm sorry if that picked up some noise. That was so good.
Oh, dude, I can't believe I just sat down and not only wrote, but read the sentence, a horde of miniature Nazi butt-raiding wiener babies.
Yep. So
we're here now.
They actually have a name. They're called Bratzies.
The Bratzies.
They actually say in the movie, and this movie was created off of the Kevin Smith's podcast.
The Hollywood. It's not the Hollywood Babylon, but
Yes, it is.
It is, yes.
It is.
Now, let's get into who's actually in this film. The film stars Lily Rose Depp, Harley Quinn Smith, Johnny Depp, Adam Brody, Oscar-nominated Austin Butler, Justin Long, Haley Joel Osment, Vanessa Paradis, Natasha Lyonne, Ralph Garman, and a bunch of cameos. However, there is an almost starring in this one. As Old Man Arcanus, played by Ralph Garman, it was almost Michael Parks, he of Quentin Tarantino film fame. But unfortunately, he got ill before filming, and the role went to Ralph Garman. It, of course, is written and directed by Kevin Smith. Now, when it comes to the accolades, he says with quotation fingers, this film at the 2017 Houston Film Critics Society Awards, it was nominated for Worst Film that year. It lost to Zoolander 2. However, on the flip side, at the 2016 Hardline Film Festival, it was nominated for the audience's darling Best Film. It lost to Under the Shadows, which was directed by Babak Advari. And I apologize if I messed up any names. Remember, I'm a Canadian, not in Winnipeg, in a basement with a microphone. Okay, so bear with me on that one there. According to IMDb, this film had a budget of $5 million and a worldwide gross of $36,585. Now, there is a giant asterisk on this, though. The film was not released in domestic theaters. It was not released in North America. All of that money basically came from about 3 weeks in 3 countries in a max total of 225 theaters only. So I'm going to give this film a pass on its box office because it is a this film was not made for theaters, and that's okay. No. So you can't even call it a failure if it doesn't even go into the theaters. I'll give them a pass on this one. The critics, however, did not. This film has a Metascore of 23, and over on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an audience score of 34%. And a tomatometer of 24%. However, it is not Kevin Smith's lowest rated film on Rotten Tomatoes as a director. For that honor goes to Cop Out at 18%. Yep. I'm going to say this. I think Yoga Hosers is definitely a better film than Cop Out. But for 24%, as we're going through this, A, are you afraid that the Bratzies are going to go find those critics and attack them because that's kind of what they were designed for? But B, are you surprised at the 24% of the critic score?
I'm actually a little bit surprised that it is so low because I know there's like fans that are like me that are diehard Kevin Smith fans. I actually thought the movie was fantastic. Like it was so funny to me. I thought it had actually a good story, and I thought it was just absolutely idiotic and stupid at the same time. And I'm from San Francisco. I saw this movie in the theaters in San Francisco at a theater called the Roxy Theater, which is kind of like a rundown theater that you would go and see.
It's a review theater.
What's that movie called with Tim Curry where he's dressed up as...
The Rocky Horror Picture Show.
So this is that type of theater where all the popcorn and everything else is getting thrown at the screen and people are dancing in the aisles. It's that type of theater. So it fitted perfectly with this movie.
I'm trying to picture, and you know, obviously the Rocky Horror Picture Show is known not just for the music itself, but for the fact that when it gets played in review theaters, and growing up in Ottawa, we had the Bytown and the Mayfair. Those were our review theaters. And yes, Rocky Horror Picture got played on those screens. And yes, there were shadowcasters who would get up in cosplay and get up in front of in front of the screen and play along. And I know in Los Angeles, there's a group called Addicted to the Knife, and they do the same kind of shadow casting thing for Repo the Genetic Opera when it gets shown in review theaters. I wonder if we're ever going to see a day when Yoga Hosers gets the shadow cast treatment and you get a bunch of people dressed up like sausage Nazi Bratzies running around in front of the screen. Like I'm not going to lie. This feels like the kind of film that could get the shadow cast treatment at a review theater.
And that's the other thing is like, I just don't think a lot of people know about it. Like I've shown this movie to a lot of my friends and we all like have a drink and two and watch it and they all actually find it entertaining. Like it's not supposed to be a big award winner movie. It's not supposed to be anything. It's just supposed to be a dumb, stupid movie. And if you can wrap your head around that, it's quite enjoyable. And Harley Quinn Smith, like the critics made this movie bad, but they said great things about the two lead actresses. And Harley Quinn went on to do TV shows for Freeform, and she's doing films now. And I don't know what Johnny Depp's daughter is doing right now, but I think she's succeeding as well.
It's funny you mentioned that. Lily Rose Depp, her next project coming up this summer, we're recording this in 2023, is a show called The Idol, and it also stars The Weeknd, where she plays a singer that's, I don't know if it's the evolution of Colleen after she goes solo from Glamthrax. Could possibly be. However, if that's the case, then that means that The Idol is part of the View Askewniverse and part of the True North trilogy that we never really knew existed. But now we're here, and we have to put that out there. Just try and picture as you're watching The Idol that singer grew up from Glamthrax, from Winnipeg. And it's going to give that series a whole new vibe. But let's get to the breakdown of this film. You mentioned Harley Quinn Smith off the top. Let's talk about her as Colleen M. And it should be noted too that Lily Rose Depp and Harley Quinn Smith, like they are actually apparently best friends. Like they met each other in kindergarten. They've grown up together. So the chemistry is definitely there. But how was Harley Quinn Smith for you?
I liked her. Like, I know that Kevin Smith puts her in all of his movies. For example, like she's the little girl that waves at Dante in the window in Clerks 2. So I know that she's always in the films. And I actually think she did a great job. She plays the role very, very well. Kevin Smith, I think, wrote the role for her because he talks about how they text each other every freaking time, and she's just as smart-witted as he is. I think that the only problem I had was that she played it probably just a little bit too dumb, because I actually think that she could have been acting a little bit smarter. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. I thought both her and Lily hit on all aspects of a teenage girl during that time of 2016. And it was freaking phenomenal. She was great, and so was Lily. Again, I just wish that she didn't act so dumb, but that was the role.
I'm going to counter that because I don't think it's playing it dumb. Let me draw a parallel here. Obviously, the Colleens work at a convenience store, and we know that Kevin Smith kind of rose to prominence from, giving us Dante and Randall in Clerks. So if I'm going to draw a parallel between the Colleens and Dante and Randall, I think Lily Rose Depp's character as Colleen C is kind of like the Randall in the relationship. There's the sarcasm, there's the, there's that all out of to give attitude, whereas Colleen M, as played by Harley Quinn Smith, is more of the Dante. She's more of the aspirational, optimistic of the duo, which is why when, all of a sudden, they get the chance to potentially go to this grade 12 party that she thinks is actually going to happen, she's the one that's more optimistic about it. She's the one that's striving for more, whereas Colleen C seems to be very happy in her given situation, hence the Dante and Randall comparison. And I think having Harley Quinn Smith as that, I don't know if it would work well if you switched the roles, or at least the comparables, and Harley Quinn Smith was the more sarcastic, all out of fucks to give, and Lily Rose Depp as the more optimistic one. I think the fact that they kind of took those roles, it still also works well in comparison. I will say that the chemistry between the two definitely worked well. And yeah, you're right. Harley Quinn Smith has been in many Kevin Smith. If I remember correctly, because we discussed Jersey Girl on this show before, if I remember correctly, I think the baby in the beginning of that film was actually Harley Quinn Smith. So yes, there's a long there's a long history of her being in Kevin Smith films. But on the flip side, you've got Lily Rose Depp as Colleen C. So how was she for you?
I enjoyed her a lot. Like Randall was one of my favorite characters in Clerks, and like I want to be like Randall, but I'm totally a Dante. I'm 100% a Dante. So like seeing her and just having that straight face throughout the whole movie, just kind of out here we call it resting bitch face, like the no fucks given kind of thing. And so she played it perfectly well. I think she made the sense and tried to, like, there were just a couple instances where she kind of did like a hello McFly to Harley Quinn Smith, and I think that played off really, really well. And I think she was actually the better of the two, in all honesty. And I think I also just like that type of role in movies also as well.
I mean, she is definitely the slacker clerk that Kevin Smith has been known to create. And you're right, like the fact that, and I think you can see the difference between, the Dante and Randallness of the two Colleens in their reaction, or at least in their interaction with Colleen C's dad, who of course I guess owns the A to Z convenience store. Colleen M,
such a great name.
which yes, absolutely. For the record, I am Canadian, but I do not say aboot. That's more of a Newfoundland thing. I do pronounce about.
Oh, I watch Shorzy. Trust me, I know.
but A to Z, when I saw it, I'm like, no, I get that, and bravo, good sir, bravo. But in their interactions with Colleen C's dad, Colleen C, the daughter, is very like no, like typical dad-daughter kind of relationship, whereas Colleen M seems to appreciate the father's upbeatness and enthusiasm towards Colleen C and their music career, their budding music career, which, for the record, anyone who listens to this show or my other music show, There Can Only Be One, will know that I am an avid Anthrax fan. So for this movie to start with the Colleens doing a cover of I'm the Man, bravo. Just absolutely bravo. You had me at I'm the man. But I love the dynamic between the two, because yes, they're both slackers. Yes, they're all like, sorry, boot that. I love the Colleen's dynamic, right? They are a ton of fun. Now let's move on to, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Oscar nominated for Best Actor this past year, Austin Butler as Hunter Calloway in this one here. How was Hunter for you?
I had no idea who this guy was. Saw this film, thought he played it really, really well. The scream that he does when they're in the movie, like that one threw me off, but I was like, oh, we're getting the dark sense of him. And that was the other reason why I suggested this movie, especially since he was just nominated for playing Elvis. I was like, oh, this is going to be too perfect. That reason, and also the music in this movie, I thought you would love also as well. So I'm really happy that I hit on that part too. But the dude played it well. I thought the dude played it well. Being that whole charismatic, like Ryan Gosling, oh, I know that I look pretty, I'm gonna live it up kind of thing, and then having that whole total dark side and like the devil in sheep's clothing kind of appearance, and he played that so good. And he was just kind of funny. He goes, I have to get to your soul. And you can't help but laugh at that. And she's thinking of something else, and he's talking about killing her.
I take a look at Hunter, and yes, I fully give Austin Butler credit for actually, pulling this off as well. Like, he's playing the, trying to be charming for Colleen M when really he's, a Canadian Satanist, and they're the good kind of Satanists apparently. But it's almost like if Ryan Gosling played the role that Christian Slater played in Heathers, and they took that character and put it into Jennifer's body. That's kind of how that, Hunter Calloway kind of feels in this. And for anyone complaining about Austin Butler sticking with the Elvis accent a little too long after filming, I'm now curious how long Austin Butler got his fake Canadian accent stuck in his head after filming this. Because it happens, right? You have
it up so well.
You have people who, like, when they're acting, when they want to nail an accent, for a lot of time they'll probably go to where the birthplace of where their character is supposed to come from, just to get a feel for the dialect. And Austin Butler, yes, it's an over the top Canadian accent. Yes, we do say "a" quite a bit, and I will fully confess to that. The aboot is a little bit regional, but okay, well, let it pass. We get it. But he really did play it well. And when you see the two of them, him and Gordon Greenleaf, is played by Tyler Posey, just hanging out at, the back of some shipping dock, playing like can hockey while waiting for this phone call. It creates that dynamic. It really does. And I love the switch when it happens. Tyler Posey, who played his friend Gordon Greenleaf, it's not a big role, but how was he for you?
He was annoying as hell. But that's what the role called for. It was kind of like a Dr. Frankenstein, Igor kind of situation. And he played it well, because you've all had those friends where you're like, oh my God, you're going to bring this dude. He's so annoying. And the only thing that made me happy is when the Bratzi actually climbed up his stomach and snapped his neck. Like, he played it so well that he was just an annoying little prick, and you were happy that he died. Because he played it well. He played what the role said. I'll give all of Kevin Smith's movies, he picks the right actors to play the right role. And like this one hit on every single lead role and support. I think the critics just didn't like the story.
Well, I mean, the film's not made for the critics, and the fact that, Andronicus Arcane, his whole reason for creating the Bratzis was to attack critics. It's almost like this is the therapy session that Kevin Smith needed after Dogma, and how the critics kind of went after him for that one there. But I mean, the thing with
which is my favorite one that he's ever done. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Dogma is
by far my favorite one.
So good and so smart on so many different levels.
Oh.
But the thing with Gordon Greenleaf is that
critics can go hate themselves.
Gordon Greenleaf is there for a purpose, and it's not. I love the fact that you create that Igor analogy to Dr. Frankenstein. I kind of picture it more as that little yappy dog that follows the big dog around on Looney Tunes. But Gordon Greenleaf to me is there to show just how stupid and wrong Hunter's plan is supposed to be. Right? If Gordon Greenleaf isn't there, then Hunter Calloway is a much more menacing role because of that ability for Austin Butler to, switch from charming to, psychotic Satanist almost on a dime, especially when him and Gordon are like, yelling at each other, before they go to the A to Z. Gordon is there to show just how bass-ackwards Hunter's plan is. Hang with clowns, expect a clown show. And that's kind of what Gordon Greenleaf is. And yes, you're right. They're there to die because that's the satisfaction knowing that the plan was doomed to begin with. Although that being said, we now go from Satanists to Bratzis, and the film just goes way off the hilt. Before we get there, though, we do need to talk about Yogi Bear, Bayer, as played by Justin Long. How is the strip mall Swami for you?
Absolutely hysterical. I like Justin Long. I thought he was a little bit much at times. Like the typical the typical yogi that never actually did the yoga class mastering classes and just decided just to try to cash in and like purposely misspelling words that sound like something else so that way he can get away with it and get more customers. It works out so well. And just the fact that he uses yoga as a fighting martial arts status is absolutely hysterical to me. Him as an actor in the role, it was like it worked at times and it didn't work at times, but it was absolutely hysterical to me.
See, it's funny. I actually really liked Justin Long in this. And I know that he's been in other Kevin Smith films. You know, of course, he's been in Zack and Miri Make a Porno. And of course, he was in Tusk. And, as I'm watching this, right, and then all of a sudden I realized that now this is now the third film of Justin Long's that we've talked about on this show. Previously, it was also Waiting and Movie 43. But the thing is, the character of Yogi Bear, I think, is one of the better subtle comedy written ones. Like everything from the writing on the wall of yoga is 90% this and the other half is this. I'm like, well, that math doesn't work, but that's kind of funny. The fact that his character name is Yogi Bear and he's constantly on the phone fighting with lawyers about copyright infringement. And what's even funnier is my usual co-host, my lovely wife, Carrie, teaches yoga. So the fact that she actually really appreciates Yogi Bear as a character and what he brought to this, like it is funny as hell, right? Like the fact that he's taking warrior poses and taking the name a little too seriously, and creating warriors that happen to use yoga as a thing. I'm all for it. I think it's funny as hell. Tony Hale, I'm going to do these two together here. Tony Hale, who played Bob, which was Colleen C's dad, the owner of the A to Z, and Natasha Lyonne as Tabitha, his girlfriend. I did not realize that convenience store social climbing was a thing, but this is what we have with Tabitha. How are the two of them for you?
I gotta admit, like the father, he just went straight back into doing Arrested Development kind of thing, like. So it was kind of like seeing him as the same character as he was in Arrested Development, always clinging to mommy and like always going for acting like a child and crying over the littlest things. But Natasha, to me, she stole every freaking scene she was in, being the evil stepmom and just freaking like dressing up the way she does just so that way the husband listens to her and not his own daughter. Like she stole the show, and I kind of wish there was more scenes with her in it because I really enjoyed her in this movie.
It's funny, like the fact that you mentioned that Natasha Lyonne kind of brings that kind of character to her. It's almost like she took the vibe from. Let me put it into context here. Natasha Lyonne was also in a film called But I'm a Cheerleader, which is an absolutely wonderful film. And in that film is Kathy Moriarty, who plays kind of like the person who runs the conversion therapy retreat that Natasha Lyonne's character is sent to. So it's almost like she took a little bit of that personality and gave it to Tabitha a little bit. As far as Tony Hale goes, at first I'm like, Bob's a little weird for Colleen's dad.
Yeah.
But if you put it into context that Colleen C is probably rebelling against what her father is and doesn't want to be that, then it makes sense that she's personality-wise the exact opposite of her father and just how enthusiastic he is. But it also, it sits well because if Colleen M and Colleen C's father get along well, and that's also a subtle understanding of why Colleen C gets along so well with Colleen M. I'm maybe thinking way too much about the movie Yoga Hosers, but here we are. The fact that the dynamic
it's kind of like a security blanket. It's kind of like a security blanket for them.
Yeah,
like she wants to be opposite of her dad, but yet still wants that aspect in her life because she needs somebody to look on the bright side of life.
Mm-hmm. And as much as she personally tries to rebel against becoming what her father is, her best friend is optimistic like her father is. It's almost like Colleen M is the perfect combination of what Colleen C is. It's like the middle ground, right? This is the meeting place, and that's Colleen M. I can't believe I have to say this. Johnny Depp as Guy Lapointe in this one here. I never thought I'd see him in this role.
And it's a callback.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I do have to say, I have never seen Tusk. So so Guy Lapointe is actually a brand new character for me. You clearly have seen Tusk. So how was his return to the True North trilogy for you?
It's so just to give you also a little, so the Colleens are actually in Tusk also as well. So these characters are already coming back for a second time for a Kevin Smith movie, and I'm hoping that we see them in more. Johnny Depp plays it really well. It's almost like a Mr. Magoo kind of role, and he's the same way in Tusk. There is a little backstory behind him, which Kevin Smith loves to talk about. So when Johnny Depp was in the makeup chair, they put that big giant nose on him. And he asked Kevin Smith to come in and take a look at it. And he goes, "What do you think of the nose?" And Kevin Smith is like, "Yeah, it looks good." He goes, "Looks like a giant penis, doesn't it?" And they both started laughing. And if you look, he goes, "Do you mind if we put a big blue vein in the middle of this nose to give it more of the aspect of a penis?" And Kevin Smith is like, "Go for it, dude. Put it in." So like he embraced the role so well, and like Johnny Depp in this movie did no wrong. I thought he was absolutely hysterical. Played it like those detective movies, kind of like a Inspector Gadget, a Mr. Magoo, those detectives that seem completely stupid but somehow figure a way out to solve the crime. Yeah, I think he played it so good.
I'm really happy you mentioned those old school detectives, because Guy Lapointe to me feels like a cross between what would happen if you took Captain Jack Sparrow and mashed him together with Columbo as played by Peter Falk. But in a way that what Leslie Nielsen brought to the Mr. Magoo character as well in that remake. It's once you realize it's Johnny Depp, it's even funnier, because you have an actor like Johnny Depp in that kind of role, not taking himself seriously at all, which is always a ton of fun. The whole thing with the moving mole, though, the mole being moved over to like almost every shot, like almost every scene, the mole has moved places. The reason I like this gag is because it feels like a callback to Les Nessman in WKRP in Cincinnati, where every episode it felt like Les had kind of moved the bandage, from his head around to different places to kind of see if anyone would really notice it, and it became kind of a running gag with WKRP in Cincinnati. This is like one of those things where it's like that old school 70s sitcom comedy callback where you sit there and you have to watch it again and again and play Spot the Mole on Guy Lapointe. Just Lapointe to the mole, and it's all good. Oh God. Adam Brody as Ichabod, or as Colleen M would call him, Dickabod. How was the 35-year-old drummer in a high school band for you?
So I had no idea who Adam Brody is. I've seen him in a couple of Kevin Smith's films. I thought I was kind of just like, I didn't know who he was, didn't understand it, but I felt like the role that he played was really kind of funny. Thinking that getting a bunch of tattoos will make him look more badass is pretty freaking funny and hysterical. But yeah, I don't really have an opinion on him just because he didn't, out of everybody in this movie, he's the one that didn't grab my attention like the others. Like, for example, Kevin Conroy, rest in peace, the voice of Batman, calling his son Robin is like a great scene to me. And that one would always stick in my head. The drummer just did not stick in my head all that well, but his scenes were kind of funny, and having that little spit back between him and the Colleens was quite entertaining. And and shows what musicians go through on a daily basis.
As a musician, I emphasize with that one here, but I think Adam Brody is funnier in this role. We've mentioned the whole Jennifer's body thing as far as the Satanist trying to take Colleen M's soul. And I think Adam Brody is funnier in this when you realize that A, he's age appropriate. He's about 35 when they make this film. But B, he was in Jennifer's body. He was in that film. So I'm kind of glad that he's not the one in the role as Holloway. However, that being said, him being in there is funny when you kind of tie the whole thing together. And maybe it's just me looking at this whole thing as, you know, as a big buffet of inside jokes, as opposed to taking it as a serious film, because it kind of feels like how this film was made, right? It feels like, let's just get a bunch of our friends and family together and go have a quote unquote working vacation. And you can almost appreciate the film in that. Like, I know I've crapped on Adam Sandler movies in the past before, but if I stand by my viewpoint that as much as I may not like the film or may think that the film is just completely wrong, the working environment and the cast of people that continuously come back to Adam Sandler films shows me that working on a Sandler film is more like a friends and family affair. Kevin Smith has proven that time and time and time again, with all these actors willfully coming back and happy to play in the sandbox. This feels like a giant family and friends picnic that devolved into a movie, and I'm kind of happy for it.
Yeah.
Including in that group is Ralph Garman, the co-host of Hollywood Babylon here, as Andronicus Arcane, the Nazi mastermind behind the Bratzies. How is he for you?
I loved him in this role, and I wish this dude would get more roles. Like, he is such a good voice actor, done Brian from Family Guy for years and years and years. All those voices that he does, if you haven't listened to Hollywood Babylon, he literally does those, and they sound exactly the way that they do in the movie. I think the way that he just transfers over between that stupid voice that he does as for Andronicus, like, to going into Rocky's voice and then going into the Mad Hatter from the cartoon of back in the 60s or 70s. Like, he does the whole Ray and he switches it on and off without hesitation. He did it so well. I thought it was absolutely hysterical, the fact that he got all the things off of watching Netflix. It's like, dude, you're hiding in a bunker. How the hell did you get somebody's Netflix password? Like, they're locking down on that now because of you. Like, this is it. This is
why Netflix got mad at everybody, because of this guy.
Yeah,
that explains it all.
Because it's the Nazis. It's the Nazis. It's always the Nazis' fault.
In a bunker under Winnipeg. I will say, as much as I appreciate what Michael Parks brings, I'm glad it was Ralph Garman, because Yoga Hosers does feel like it's a movie more for kids and stoners, but kids.
Yes.
And I think Ralph Garman brought that perfect level of, for lack of a better term, Disney Channel show villain. Like, aside from the fact that he's a Nazi, that kind of, big stage comedy kind of acting would fit well in a show like a Henry Danger or a show like a Lab Rats or the Thundermans. Like, that kind of live action Disney Channel-esque show benefits from a villain as played the way Ralph Garman did. The way the Yoga Hosers plays out on screen, he's the perfect villain for that role.
I will say also, Michael Parks was the main villain in Tusk. Like, he would have given this role such a more darker feeling to it, like he did in Tusk. Like, the way that he plays Tusk, dude, is creepy, it's good, and it's cynical. It would not fit for this film. But then again, Kevin Smith could have rewritten it, or Michael Parks could have done it in a more silly manner. I don't know. But I still think Ralph Garman did a wonderful, wonderful showing of being a Looney Tune-esque villain. Like, he's like drastically from Wacky Races. Like, that's perfect for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just going to rapid fire a lot of these cameos and smaller roles here. So we'll just get your take on a bunch of these here. Haley Joel Osment as Adrian Arcon. Hey, yo, Adrian. How is he in this for you?
Absolutely hysterical. Like, who would have thought that the kid that can see dead people wants to kill more people, and the fact that he's a Nazi?
Oh, I love to see him actually having fun now. He was also in The Boys as well. So, you know, the fact that he's taking on these roles and getting these shots, like, love that. Jennifer Schwalbach-Smith, Colleen's mom, played by her mom. How was she in here for you?
Greatest line in the movie, I think, of "This is a Boilermaker." Like, that's such a good line. And I love the fact that you get the sense that she did some time in prison. Like, it's so funny to me.
Oh my God, Jennifer Schwalbach-Smith now in Orange is the New Black. I can see it now. But she does. She plays badass very, very well. Same thing she did in Jamestown, the Bob Strike Back. You already mentioned him already, but I'm going to say it again. Kevin Conroy as Canadian Batman.
For such a small role, very close to being my MVP. Like, I just love that, man. The fact that he goes into Batman's voice and calls his son Robin, like, is absolutely hysterical to me. It was great.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. You got to geek to be able to geek out on this cameo here. If you don't know, you're not going to know. But if you know, you're going to love the scene. Absolutely. However, Stan Lee, as you can't miss that voice as the police dispatcher. Again, anything Stan Lee, I will stand up and applaud. But again, how is he, as a cameo for you?
I'm the same way. Anything Stan Lee is involved in, or anytime they make a reference to him, he's going to do no wrong. And I love the fact that this is like everybody's grandpa. And yet you're having, like, every comic book's grandpa, this man is, and you're having him swear saying, "Goddamn yoga hosers." It's so good. That's like my second favorite line. So, like, he did no wrong. He was great. And I think, was this at the end of the credits, they actually had him showing between Kevin Smith and Stan Lee, like, doing a reading together or something like that on, like, the IMDb boat. It might have been in Jay and Silent Bob reboot, but I can't remember which one.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was, and I'll be honest, I didn't make it all the way to the end of the credits because I had to go make my notes for the show. Sashir Zamata as Principal Invincible. I
liked her. Just the sassy kind of principal. We all wish we had a teacher that can give it and take it. But yeah, I liked her. She wasn't outstanding as the other ones because, again, I, like you said, if you know, you know, and I didn't really know her, but I thought she was entertaining and fun to be around and trying to be that hip teacher that actually is hip without even trying.
See, the funny thing is, I don't think she was trying to be hip. I think, like, her whole thing, like, no, I read this, like, I think that's just total sarcasm, but the sarcasm works even better because the Colleens don't actually pick up on the fact that she's being sarcastic. The history
Good
teacher,
point.
As played by Vanessa Paradis, the real-life mother of Lily Rose Depp, how was she for you?
She was great. I heard that was her mom also, but I wasn't sure. But I thought it was absolutely fantastic. She tells the story of the Canadian Nazis really well, I think. And it, again, you said this whole movie is just a family affair, and, like, each role was perfect for the person.
Okay, I'm glad you say that, because next we have to bring up Kevin Smith as the Brotsies.
Okay.
Oh, dear God. The fact that it's Kevin Smith makes it even funnier. Like, just makes it so much fun.
Well, that was the other thing, is that it wasn't actually going to be Kevin Smith. It was actually going to be Jason Mewes. And that's why he does the whole, like, a Canadian goddamn Batman scene, because Jason Mewes wanted to be a part of this movie, but because Jason Mewes is claustrophobic, he could not get into the Bratzy uniform and makeup. So Kevin Smith had to do it. And that is actually Kevin Smith's freaking German accent that he loves to pull on Hollywood Babylon too, for those that are listening. And they actually make that joke, so 9, it's 10. That is a joke that they say repeatedly on that show. So it's great. I love the fact that he's just, God, he played it really well too. And that whole fight scene in the convenience stores is fantastic, where they actually take the Yoga Hosers fight and warrior pose and everything else. And the song for it, I want that song played in every hockey arena ever. The two of them singing that song was freaking fantastic. And it's a lot better than the original version, I say. So I want that to be played here in San Jose 100%.
Wait. Hold on here. You're saying that version of the hockey song, as originally done by Stompin' Tom Connors, is better than the Stompin' Tom Connors version? I liked it a lot more, in all honesty. I know I'm probably going to be, everybody's going to hate me for that, especially in Canada, but I mean, dude, that version of it was just, it kicked ass. Like, plain and simple. I loved it. Like, nothing to take away from the original, but I love the more rockness to it. And like, don't get me wrong again, I do love the original, but this one was just, to me, it hit a rock chord with me, and so that's why I liked it. I like it just a little bit more. Don't get me wrong, I didn't not enjoy the rock version. I'm just saying that as part of the Canadian Constitution of Rights and Freedoms, saying anything is better than Stomping Tom Connors may actually be a punishable offense, and you will find yourself in a prison, in a bunker underneath Winnipeg. Just warning you right now. And then, of course...
Well, thank God I'm in the States.
Oh, we have extradition. You make fun of Stompin' Tom Connors. We have extradition rights on here. Jason Mewes as the rogue cop in this. I mean, it's a Kevin Smith film, so Jason Mewes has to be in there. But the fact that he is there, how was he for you?
I love, he actually came up with the line and the salute. So the fact that he did that was absolutely hysterical, and like such a small part, but at the same time, so funny. And to have Jason Mewes go up against Johnny Depp, that's like having Jason Mewes going up against Alan Rickman in Dogma. Like, it should not happen, but yet in a Kevin Smith movie, it does, magically. And
finally, Genesis Rodriguez, who was the gym teacher in this. How was she for you?
Hysterical. Oh my God. She is every adult that wants to yell at teens. She did it so freaking well. Get off your phones.
Oh, dear God. Every teacher right now is sitting there going, I am Miss Wickland. We are all Miss Wickland, and we are Legion. One of the things that kind of sticks out to me here, and while I admit that I have not actually watched Tusk, I've at least done some research into it, and it's a darker film, right? It's pseudo body horror type film, and then to realize that it's in the same universe as this film, which feels like the same kind of humor that they would use for the Clerks animated series, which I absolutely love and miss, and I wish it would come back. Although that being said, if you were to do a Yoga Hosers animated series with the same kind of humor that was in the Clerks animated series, please just take my money. Just take my money on that one. I will happily give you, admittedly being Canadian funds, so it wouldn't really be worth much down in the States. But that being said, I think that could really work well. Like, that's the kind of tone that this movie feels like. It feels like that Clerks animated series kind of vibe. But I just wonder, and I'm going to put this out to you, the fact that the critics, some of them actually quite liked Tusk because it was such a left turn for Kevin Smith's career, and then to follow it up in the supposed same True North trilogy with this, does the tonal disconnect between the two films hurt Yoga Hosers more from a critic's perspective?
Well, I mean, I can see where the critics will come from, because it's two sides of the same coin. So you went super, super dark to something super, super cartoonish. So I get where the critics are coming from, but at the same time, like, it works. It in Kevin Smith's mind, it just works. I mean, this guy went from a black and white Clerks film to Clerks 3, where it is heart wrenching as hell. And like, I admit, I went and saw this with my buddy David, and dude, I was bawling my eyes out so freaking hard on Clerks 3. So like, you can see the transition, and this is a whole movie about friendship and about just not taking what other people say critically to heart. You gotta love your own art. And I thought it was really told well. I liked the storyline. It was random as hell, which fits my brain perfectly. But yeah, I mean, I go into this movie not necessarily disallowing what I saw in Tusk and knowing that this is something totally different. If you're going into this looking at Tusk saying, oh, it's going to be something similar, you're going to be disappointed. This is something totally different. The critics put too much faith in Tusk, I feel like, to really enjoy this show, and probably didn't get drunk or high to watch it, which made them hate it even more.
Okay, so at the end of the credits, at least from what I saw, there's a little slogan in there, not a slogan, but a little line there that says the Colleens will return in Moose Jaws, which means that there will be, or should be at some point, a third movie in the True North trilogy called Moose Jaws, which apparently, according to Kevin Smith in an interview, said, yeah, it's Jaws with a moose. So I'm going to ask you this. Given that this is the third movie in the True North trilogy, would you want this tonally more like Tusk or tonally more like Yoga Hosers?
I feel like it should be, if you want to really blend all three, it's got to be somewhere in the middle, where when the Colleens are in the movie and it's all hysterical, but when they're not, that's when it gets super serious. And so it's kind of like there's that TV show that happened where you see it through the guy's point of view and you see it through the woman's point of view. And the woman's point of view is a TV show drama, and the guy's point of view is a total comedy sitcom. If you do something kind of like that, I think it would be really trippy, but it'd be really good at the same time. So it's kind of like a give or take. Knowing Kevin Smith and liking what he does, I kind of want to be on the Yoga Hoser side. I would love it to be on the Yoga Hoser side. The other thing that I was going to point out too is that there is a possibility that Kevin Smith has recently started talking about of a Tusk 2 also coming out as well. So be ready for that one also.
I mean, I think I would prefer to see the Colleens return in something more, along the Yoga Hosers vein. Again, like an animated series would be, I think, hilarious because you can go so much further, because the Clerks animated series, while it only lasts, I think it was like 6 episodes or something like that. Was
10 or something.
Yeah, it wasn't that much, but it was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious, and it allowed Dante and Randall to deal with things that would be really hard to pull off in a live action film. I think the Yoga Hosers, the Colleens, if you take an animated series where Glamthrax actually goes on the road and every episode, they have to deal with something in a different city while they're on tour, I think it would be so much fun if that were to happen. And I just think that Yoga Hosers got such a low rating because, it's like, oh yeah, well, no, it's the follow-up to Tusk. It's nothing like Tusk, but it's the follow-up to Tusk. Mm-hmm. So it just feels like another left turn. But I think on its own, if you ignore the existence of Tusk, then Yoga Hosers is a good, completely out in left field, fun ride full of a lot of dumb jokes that will make you laugh regardless. Like, it's a good time at the theaters if you ignore the existence of Tusk.
It's a movie where you say, I just want to watch something stupid. If you want to get high, you can get high. If you want to have a drink with it, you have a drink with it. But it's a totally, totally stupid movie that's just there for pure entertainment. And when you want that, especially in this crazy effed up world that we live in, sometimes you need that. This movie is perfect. it is absolutely perfect for that. And don't take it serious, because the minute that you try to take it serious is the minute you're going to hate it.
Okay, Briz, you know it's time, man. It is time. So, who is your MVP of Yoga Hosers?
There's so many that I would love to choose from, but in my honest opinion, and I'm probably going to send him your episode link to it, my MVP is Ralph Garman. He stole the show. He comes in at like 2/3 of the movie done, and that dude is so memorable. Seeing him in the bunker just eating popcorn and taking in all these different voices, the fact that he can jump from everybody. And I'm kind of sad that I wish he would have done the Johnny Depp interpretation, like a Captain Jack Sparrow kind of interpretation, because that would have been awesome in front of Johnny Depp. But or even the fact that he went into Adam West, who had just passed away and is actually a good friend of Ralph Garman's when this movie was made. So, like, to me, everything that this guy did was absolutely phenomenal. The message behind him saying that haters are going to hate, just like Taylor Swift says, who he calls Taylor Swiftler, which makes it even more funny, is just fantastic. I love this dude. I will always go to the end of the movie just to see him show off his acting chops, because I think they're great, especially as a voice actor. I think his acting chops are amazing.
I will say, like, if he brings that much energy to the screen, then he should absolutely get one of those, villain roles in a Disney Channel-esque show, because I think that's the kind of performance that would really play well on the screen. I think you're right. Unfortunately, he's not my MVP. As much as I wanted to give my MVP to Lily Rose Depp, because I thought she was absolutely wonderful in this, and
Yes.
Harley Quinn Smith as well, I can't get over just how much fun I had watching Justin Long as Yogi Berra.
Hey, I give it to you, man. He was great.
Right? And the thing is, again, there's so much in this film where, if you know, and you geek out and you enjoy and you laugh along. And I do admit that this is not a film for the critics, especially because critics beware, because apparently there are, sausage wiener babies that are there to attack you if you downvote anything. But I love how Justin Long just jumps into these roles, takes them over the top, but in a way that works so well for the scene. And the fact that, he's got the angriest yogi out there. The strip mall Swami is my MVP on this one. Briz, thank you so much for coming back to the show and introducing me to the True North trilogy through Yoga Hosers. So tell us a little bit about Super Smashed Bros.
I will, but the first question I got to ask, because I was really hoping that she would have been able to join us. What did your wife think of this movie? So, because you talked about her loving the yogi. So I'm just curious what she thought of the movie.
Oh, she's actually seen this before. Like when I said, "Oh yeah, no, we're watching, we're covering Yoga Hosers there," because I hadn't watched it at the time. She had watched it because, again, she does teach yoga, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I watched it." And we started to watch it again, and she's like, "Oh, I forgot how crazy this film is," and then she fell asleep. So she did actually enjoy it. Like it is. It is a good goofball time, but I think she would agree with me that Justin Long was definitely the MVP, especially from a yoga teacher perspective. So again, there's a shout out to my lovely wife Carrie there. So Briz, let us know all about Super Smash Bros. And where we can find you there.
Yeah, guys, you can find me on Twitch at Brizzy59. Every Friday, me and my buddy Tommy drink 4 different types of craft beers all throughout these United States. If we ever get to travel across up north to you guys, we would definitely drink some Canadian beers. But yeah, we drink different beers all around these United States and rank them out of 100 and tell you what they kind of taste like. We base it off of the can art, the taste, the way it makes us feel, and what we compare it with food wise. We had such beer. We do everything between sours and stouts, IPAs, and everything in between. So if you got a beer out there that you want us to know, go ahead and send it our way. You can follow me at Twitch Brizzy on Instagram or super.smashedbros on Instagram also. And we will try to find that beer that you guys are suggesting, because we want our fans to start watching us more and more. We want to take this to bigger and better heights, kind of like your show right now. And yeah, that's about it. So we're there every Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time out here in California.
Okay. Before I sign off here, I have to ask you a question. Given your expertise in the craft culinaries, I have to ask you, what beer would you pair with a barbecued bratzi?
I would do a type of lager. We had one yesterday, last Friday, and it was actually just to match the bitterness with the bitterness of the bratzi. It was a black lager, so it tasted like coffee, and it was actually really, really light. And you can take that and put it into the bratzi and then cook the bratzi along and get the bratzi drunk. So maybe he'll have a drink with you also instead of killing you. So that's what I would do.
I just wonder if a German Pilsner would pair with the bratzi. I'm just curious now.
Probably will too. Like, I was thinking a German lager would be really good with it too.
Yeah, I could see a dad pairing well with that. I can't believe we're now talking about barbecuing a Kevin Smith character, but here we are. But this has been our look at Yoga Hosers. Now, to you, our listeners, you guys know the drill. If there is a film out there that you think is unfairly maligned, or you think it's so bad that there's no way in hell that we can find anything good to say about it, hit us up on Twitter at NotThatBadCast, or go to our website at NotThatBadCast.com. While you're there, you can see our coming soon page, and you can see some of the movies that we're preparing to talk about, and let us know what you think about those films, because we'd love to hear from you guys. Until next time, Briss, thank you so much for this. To you, our listeners, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I'm Jason. This is It's Not That Bad. Take care.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, Skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.